Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the Arise to Success show where we aim to highlight inspiring individuals and their journeys to success. I'm your host on this show. My name is Gehad. Throughout the show, dear listeners, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them on 0779 481822. Our guest today is Summra Nasir, who's a qualified nutritionist with a lot of experience in educating the community on living a healthy lifestyle and eating a healthy diet. Through running one-to-one consultations, corporate wellness sessions, and conducting 6-week health workshops with a number of community groups. She has been a guest speaker at many events and podcasts such as Regent's Park Mosque, British Islamic Medical Association, Muslim Doctors Association, and has also been live on BBC London Radio, as well as Islam Channel's Health Matters show to discuss health topics such as diabetes and obesity. Summra trained as a dietitian but realized nutrition was more her passion. She is a public health nutritionist and covers a range of health areas, but her speciality lies in type 2 diabetes and obesity or weight loss. Summra primarily works with women from ethnic minority groups, which are Asians, Middle Eastern, and Afro-Caribbean, as she knows that there is a gap in knowledge in this subgroup and a higher prevalence of health issues such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Summra wants to help make a difference to her community and feels that she can relate to this subgroup and wants to empower the women with the right knowledge and tools to better their health. Her passion is to help people make a change to their diet and lifestyle long term in order to live a better, healthier life permanently, as her motto is, health is wealth. Summra, so lovely having you with us today, and welcome to the Arise to Success show. How is your day going so far? Sorry, Summra, I can't hear you. You might be on mute.
Can you hear me now? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Live technology.
It's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. How are you? It's great to be on here. Thank you very much for hosting me today, Gehad.
Alhamdulillah, I'm well, and it's lovely having you. And mashallah, you seem to be very well knowledgeable, mashallah, about nutrition, and it's an honor to have you with us on the show. So I'm wondering, to start with, actually, what led you to be, to have that interest in nutrition?
Yeah, really good question. So I was always very interested in food from a young age, but that definitely had something to do with my parents and my upbringing. So my mum and dad, like my father in particular, have traveled the world, and he always brought new cuisines and new traditions to the house. So one day we'd be having tapas, another day we'd be having Persian cuisine, Arabic cuisine, Pakistani, all types. English as well. I mean, we're in the UK. And I always thought, that I love food. I love what it stood for. It brings people together. We always have a party. Wherever there's a party, there's food. And then I thought about I wanted to do something where I'm helping people and giving back to society. And I always loved, science. And I realized that, okay, nutrition and dietetics, my dad actually said to me, why don't you become a dietitian? He thought it was very glamorous. I don't know how true that is. A lot of work, hard work in it, but he took my grandpa to see a diabetes specialist dietitian when he was here many years ago. And I think that's where I got the inkling of becoming a nutritionist, dietitian, and it kind of stuck. And I'm really passionate about it. It's really nice to be able to empower others with the right knowledge to enjoy food. That's the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've noticed with a lot of people who like to be healthy, they try to kind of cut a lot of things that they don't enjoy food anymore. And I know a coach, and she says it's actually very important to actually enjoy our food so that we stick to our diet and whatever we're trying to achieve from it as well. So that's great, mashallah. And it's lovely to be passionate about something, because when you're passionate about something, you kind of give it your best and you enjoy doing it as well. So mashallah, you seem to be really, really passionate about this area, mashallah. So yeah, what does a healthy diet look like if we talk about healthy, diet? Because we were just saying that, it's important that we actually enjoy it. So if you can tell us a bit more about what does a healthy diet look like and what's the importance of a healthy diet?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so a healthy diet is basically a diet. You might have seen the Eat Well guide, or if you haven't, basically the Eat Well guide is all about living off a plant-based diet. And what that means, it's not just plants. A lot of people get very confused when I say plant-based, but the fact that it's based means the majority of your food needs to come from, legumes, pulses, nuts, seeds, vegetables, fruits. And these are foods that literally are grown from the ground, isn't it? So
Mm.
plant-based foods are the foods that are rich in fiber, rich in polyphenols, in lots of different nutrients, micronutrients, all the vitamins and minerals that your gut microbiome needs to thrive. Basically, when your gut's happy, so is your brain. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the gut-brain axis. And there's a lot of work and a lot of research being conducted into this area at the moment. And it's a very interesting area how the vagus nerve is always speaking between the gut and your brain. And a really good indication of is basically when you take a tablet, when you swallow it and you have a headache, where does it go first? It goes to your gut, doesn't it? So then once it's absorbed, it goes to your brain. So everything starts in the gut. So the gut is the second brain. It's another way of calling it. And so living off a plant-based diet doesn't just mean that. So we're saying all those important areas, but you also need lean proteins. So good like chicken, eggs, tofu, edamame beans, fish, lentils. They're all packed full of protein. So you get animal products as well as non-animal products, as well as good fats. So we need a balance of all of these types of foods. So good fats from avocados, olive oil, nuts, seeds. These are the important omega-3s that your brain health and your heart health require to live happily and healthily. So happy and healthy diet is all about, a balance of all of these three main areas. And less so, sorry, of the ultra processed foods. So the ultra processed foods, you must have heard a lot of talk about this in the news at the moment. We are in a country where you have a lot of sugar, a lot of saturated fat, a lot of salt, and foods which are smoked, which are stripped away from their natural raw state. So if you want to have this on occasion, we're not saying you can't ever have it. You can. It's just in moderation. So having a lot less of this in the diet and more of the plant-based foods is crucial to good health.
So when you say, yeah, sorry, what was that you said at the end?
It's very crucial to good health to have all of these main areas, food groups, and limiting the ultra processed foods in the diet overall to have good health.
Yeah. And when it comes to when you're saying to have in moderation, how does that look like? Is it once a week, once a month? Or is there specific advice on how often or,
Yeah.
the less of it, how much is that?
Yeah, so that's a really good point there. So everyone always says that to me as well. It depends on the person. So I always say, we're all different, we're all unique, remember? So not one fit will fit for everybody. However, if you're thinking about cakes and, biscuits or chocolates, I always say have a treat once or twice a week. So
Okay.
no more than once to twice a week. So if it's a Saturday, for example, children are off school and they might want to have a slice of cake, think about the portions as well, because they're full of sugar, it's empty calories, it's full of, but we need to live and enjoy life too. So it's striking that balance. I love a cake, I love a burger, I love pizzas, but I'm going to have it once a week and it's not going to be detrimental. If I'm having it every single day, I'm having just beige foods and it's all the takeaway foods and it's salty, sugary, saturated fat foods. This is where there's cause of concern. So that's definitely the worry.
Right, okay. So how about, talking about myself for a moment here, and I'm sure a lot of people kind of, relate to that. If we try to be as healthy as possible and we just have, for example, at the end of the day, we have a cup of tea with dessert, a piece of cake, but throughout the day, we're keeping it healthy. Is that too much to have it on a daily basis? Is it better to kind of limit the sugars to have it a few times a week? Or if it's a small amount that we just have it once a day, is that okay?
Yeah, so is that, it depends, is that a cake, like a slice of cake, are you saying, or a big piece? Because it's about the portion again. So if you're having every single day, yeah, I wouldn't recommend, because remember, sugar is basically, it's like an addiction. Sugar,
Mm,
alcohol, caffeine, all of these are things that we can get addicted to. It's that, you know why? It's that feel good factor. When you're having sugar, you
mm,
get a sugar rush, don't we? And we feel good, we feel elated. But what that is it's a short quick fix, and then you're going to have a drop immediately and a crash. So basically, if that happens, this is cause for concern, because you want your sugar levels to be stable, because when you're having a high and then a low constantly, this is where you can get diabetes type 2. So I would say a little piece of chocolate. If you really want something sweet in the night with your cup of tea, have some dates, for example, which are much healthier. Having natural versions of sugar is more better. It's much better for your health, isn't it? So like
mm,
natural fruits and berries and things that are very nice and naturally sweet, but they're going to have that fiber and potassium and all those magnesium and minerals that you need with vitamins along with it. So that's okay. But if you're having empty calories, which is refined sugars, this is what we mean by added sugar, every day it will add up and it will turn into fat, and that can cause complications such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, atheromas in the heart, fatty deposit buildups, and it turns into saturated fat in the body where it lines your organs. And especially in the Asian community, we tend to have more fat around the stomach area and the abdomen. And it's just because we're more naturally predisposed to it. So I would recommend having, if you're having something sweet, have like some dark chocolate maybe, like dark
mm.
chocolate. I don't know if you like it, but that's
Yeah.
got a lot of antioxidants in it. Yeah, good, as well as good other good benefits in it as well, polyphenols. So you're not going to want too much because it's quite strong. So
Mm,
as opposed so much of milk chocolate.
No, great. Because, my mom would always tell me, don't have it every day. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm only having a small piece. So now that I know, I have to listen to my mom.
Oh, I mean, if you're having a tiny piece, it might not do the well, it's not going to kill you. But if you're having so much, for example, it's the excess that we're worried about. But I would recommend trying to do maybe 2 to 3 times a week as opposed to having every single day, just so you get
Mhm.
out of that, addiction phase.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Same
yeah,
with
yeah.
fizzy drinks as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Jazakallah khair. You mentioned earlier as well about having a balance between the meats and the vegetables and so on. What about those who are a lot of people they try to be vegetarian or they like to be vegetarian? I'm wondering, is that healthy? Does that mean that there is an imbalance of the nutritions that the body needs?
Okay, yeah, very good question. So, in regards to vegetarians and vegans, you might have heard a lot of
Yeah.
veganism it's taken storm recently, I think, in both areas. But I mean, if you're doing it for the right reasons, because of animal welfare, because of health complications, maybe to help you get back on track. Initially, it's fine. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're doing it because you think you're going to lose weight, yeah, this is where most people go wrong, because you can be overweight vegan because you might be eating a lot of vegan free cakes, which you think are good for you, but they're packed full of other alternatives, sugar and other things. But when it
Mm,
comes to vegetarians, for example, vegetarians can have maybe some of them might be pescatarian, so they might have some fish, some eggs. They might not be as restrictive as vegans. Vegans, on the other hand, will have no animal product whatsoever. So no eggs, no fish, nothing to do with an animal. And that can be worrying because they might be deficient in certain minerals and certain vitamins. So in these cases, I would recommend that they have certain, like vitamin D, for example, they could be low in omega 3s, which are solely from animal products, the ones that are the ones we readily absorb rather. DHA and EPA, which are the ones you get in oily fish.
mm,
These ones I would recommend they'd need to take a supplement of omega 3, which could be an algae based version. So it's still not an animal product, but they'll get the right type of omega 3 for good brain health, gut health. Also, maybe they might need magnesium and zinc because they could be low. You get a lot of that in animal products,
mm,
not so much in vegetables or vegetarian diets. And vitamin D, most of us in this country need it, to be honest, because we don't nearly see enough sunshine, do we? And that's the best source, the D3 that we require from the sunlight, where our skin absorbs immediately and it converts it into the right type. So we all should be taking a vitamin D supplement throughout the winter months, and I think it's from September through to even now, to be
Mm.
honest. But always checking with supplements. I always say check with your doctor first to see if you're lacking in anything. Excess of any supplements also detrimental and it can be dangerous. So you need to make sure you're not having excess of anything, because if you have too much, that can also be dangerous for heart palpitations. If you're having medication, you're on certain medication, it can interfere. So I always say I'm a food first approach, firstly with anything, but always if you do need to supplement, check with your nutritionist, dietitian, or doctors first. But you can live a healthy, happy lifestyle on these diets as long as it's you've got sort advice.
Mm. No, that's great. Jazakallah khair for that. And you mentioned also, actually, before I ask that, let me just remind our dear listeners, just in case anybody joined us a bit later, that we have Summra Nasir with us on the show today. He's a qualified nutritionist who works primarily with women from ethnic minority groups, which are Asians, Middle Eastern, and Afro-Caribbean. As she knows that there is a gap in knowledge in this subgroup and a higher prevalence of health issues such as diabetes type 2 and heart disease. Summer wants to help make a difference to her community and feels that she can relate to this subgroup and wants to empower the women with the right knowledge and tools to better their health. Dear listeners, just a reminder, if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any questions for to ask Samra, please send those on 07779481822. So Samra, in your introduction earlier at the start, I mentioned that you studied dietitian and nutrition, but you're more passionate about nutrition. Could you tell us the difference between a dietitian and nutrition? What makes you have more passion in nutrition?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, there's a lot of confusion between the two when it comes to people not understanding, and it's understandable why. I don't blame people. I mean, who do you see? Who do I go to? To be honest, that we're both teaching the same principles. So if you speak to a dietitian or a nutritionist, you're in good hands. But the main thing or the main difference, I did train as a dietitian, but I wasn't really a hospital person.
Mm.
So dietitians train in a hospital every year. It's a 4-year degree. You basically get to see whether it's for you. You're working in specialist areas, with people who have renal conditions, cardiac conditions, type 1 diabetes. So there's a lot of specialist areas, PCOS, women's health as well. So dietitians are registered, they're state registered, and they have to get their license, and they're working in hospital environments in particular. However, if you go freelance, a lot of them can also go out there and help people freelance as well. Whereas nutritionists, they work more in communities, not really in a hospital environment. Unless you trained as a dietitian, you don't work in a hospital as a nutritionist. And so this was more for me. I loved my placement in my second year, where I worked in the community in Kensington and Chelsea, and I learnt so much about educating the Afro-Caribbean groups, the Arabic, Middle Eastern groups, Asian community, and I got a lot of joy of running these sessions on how to lower your diabetes and reverse your diabetes type 2, how to prevent heart disease and lower cholesterol. I'd run a lot of workshops with different community groups, and I'd like to expand on that to help more and more people understanding the difference, like you said, between the vegan diet and the vegetarian diet, and to live a better lifestyle, free of illness and disease. So the main difference is that, to be honest, specialist dietitians work in specialist areas. Nutritionists can also do that, but we can dabble in other areas too. So although I'm a type 2 diabetes specialist, weight loss specialist, I can also help in other areas, weight gain, skin problems. So it can maybe move around a little bit more in that regard. I
Okay.
hope that makes it clear.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I myself didn't know the difference between a dietitian and a
Sure.
nutritionist. So yeah, so
Mhm.
thank you for explaining the difference here. So you do your own work as well in terms of workshops and so on and so on. Is that something that you deliver in certain areas? Is it online? I'm just thinking, if people are listening to us and
Yeah,
they're interested.
of course. No, no, good. Definitely. I've been working a lot since the pandemic kicked in. I wanted to reach out to more people in the community. and at a really hard time in all of our lives, we needed as much support that we could get when it came to bettering our health overall, mentally, physically,
Mm,
and I had to reach out to people. So I work on Zoom for people all around the world, basically. So if anyone wanted my support, I'm sure you've put my details, Nutrition, they could reach out to me, or DM me, and I can run my workshops or one-to-one consultations. But in person, I do a lot in central London. So my base is
mm.
mainly central London, centrally, north of the borough, south of the borough, Kensington and Chelsea area. But there are other places where I do go out to if they really need my support, and also via Zoom, I run workshops for a Southeast Eastern Asian community group, which I've been doing for a couple of years now on Zoom in another country, and it works perfectly well, as we can see. Zoom does do the job.
Absolutely. And you, I'm assuming you do post these things on your Instagram if people want to know more about it, right?
Yes, yes, definitely, I do. So please, Summy is SUMMY, like summer, Summy dot nutrition. So you can all find me via there. That is my link. My website's being sorted at the moment, so I will give that out soon as well. But
Mhm.
it's easy. Instagram's a new way, social media. I'm trying to get onto TikTok now. I mean, I tried my best to avoid it, but I think you've got to go in there to let people know who you are, and so they
Mm.
can see your work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And apologies for my phone earlier. I always keep my phone on vibration, and for some reason it was on loud just a while ago.
No
So
problem.
apologies for the noise. Um, Mashallah, you've got a wide, background in terms of the different illnesses and things like that. Maybe if we just before the break, we've got a few minutes before the break. I think if we talk about diabetes type 2 a little bit more, because as you said, that's quite common in the Asian communities, and Middle Eastern and the Afro Caribbean. So, what is the cause of type 2 diabetes? I know there's a difference between type 1 and type 2. Is it type 2 that's more common, and what causes it?
Yes, definitely. So there's type 1 and type 2. Type 1 being it's basically with a sugar condition. So as we know, we all have energy from carbohydrates. So carbohydrates is another word for sugar. Our brain relies on sugar for its energy, and it's broken when once we're taking food in our mouth and we're breaking it down, it's stored in our muscle cells, and our liver as glycogen, which is the breakdown product of the sugar that we're consuming, and we need it. So crucial for energy. But just like I said, anything that excess will be detrimental. But type 1 is where your pancreas has stopped working completely and it's packed in. It's a hormonal condition where your pancreas will no longer work, and so you need insulin injected into the body to get that sugar out of the blood into your cells. Type 2 is when your insulin is insufficient. So you do produce it, but your fat cells are blocking the entrance into the muscle cells. So that's when, normally obesity and overweight people tend to have type 2 diabetes. And that's why it's so important to be in a good, healthy weight range, below from 20 to 25 BMI. Over
Mm.
that, you're overweight. Over 30, you're obese. And over 35, it's morbidly obese. So that's why we say being in a good health, losing weight will prevent the onset of type 2 diabetes. So type 2 diabetes is more environmentally obtained. People get it later on in life. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease, which you are generally born with, and a lot of youngsters, juveniles, get it. So in your young ages, maybe 8 to 10 years old, and that sadly that's non-reversible, but type 2 is reversible, and we can take our health into our own hands, we can prevent it and we can reverse it. So I know people go, oh, it's in my genes, so whether I like it or not, I'm going to get it. And this is a good excuse, but it's not the case. If you're
Mm.
more susceptible to it, you know that you have it in the family, that makes you think, okay, I need a wake up call sooner. Make sure I don't get myself into that position where I'm overweight, I'm not exercising, I'm not moving my body enough, I'm not consuming too many sugary, saturated, high fatty foods, and I'm having a more of a plant based Mediterranean diet, basically. Plant-based is the same as the Mediterranean diet, so packed full of goodness, fish, whole grains, nuts and seeds, So if you can do that, you can prevent it. And also we can reverse it if you lose weight. During Ramadan, a lot of people tend to see their sugar levels really improve because the insulin resistance improves because the fat's being broken down during those hours. So I always say it could be a very good starting point.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to. We'll continue after the break because we've got only 10 seconds before the break, but we'll continue inshallah.
No.
So dear listeners,
Inshallah, no.
this is Inspire FM Luton on 105.1. We'll begin for a short break, so see you shortly.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Let us rejoice in thee, 'cause these are the days inspiring. People enjoying fun fair rides, £1 to £2 each. Games and activities for everyone, stage acts for you and me. Food from all over the world, so come let's all join the scene. Fun for the friends and family, Lucy Park is the place to be.
Inspire Eid Festival, 16th to 17th June. Join us 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Lucy Park. Together, we celebrate.
Do you have a legal problem? Are you trying to settle a family member? If so, then contact M&K Solicitors. M&K Solicitors are a leading local firm specialising in immigration, family, personal injury, clinical negligence, civil and property law. Our solicitors have over 20 years' experience and are recognised internationally. Our success rate speaks for itself. Take advantage of our free consultations for your first meeting. We also give free advice on Fridays, no appointment needed. That's right, free legal advice. M&K Solicitors. Call 01582 732 503.
How many times have you needed urgent medical supplies but don't know where to go? At Harris Pharmacy, we take pride in delivering a high-level healthcare to our community. This is why we have services such as private one-to-one consultation, free prescription ordering from GP and delivery to your home, mobility aids such as providing wheelchairs and many other items for everyday use. Call us today on free phone 0800 458 2850 to discuss your medical needs. We are open from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. Monday to Friday and 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Saturdays. Harris Pharmacy, 165 A/B, Dunstable Road, Luton.
Greystone Solicitors are committed to protecting your rights and fighting your corner to ensure you get the best possible results. Specialising in immigration matters, employment issues, family matters, personal injury, medical negligence, civil litigation and housing. Need help with your immigration problem? Greystone Solicitors provide free immigration drop-in clinics every Friday. Call Greystone Solicitors today on 01582 343 453 or visit us at 275 Dunstable Road, Luton, LU4 8BS and begin your journey towards justice today.
This Eid, millions of people are facing hunger. You can make a difference by donating to Crisis Aid's global Qurbani campaign. You can help those most in need. Crisis Aid selects the healthiest animals for your Qurbani, and the meat is distributed to the poor directly. Share the blessings of Eid from just £14. To donate, visit us on crisisaid.org.uk or call 0333 305 5000.
Inspire FM, Dallas Centre and WMC have come together on the 15th of June, bringing you a female-only Jan Raad event, a safe and halal environment for the sisters and their children to come down and have their mehndi done. Why not come down and do your last-minute Eid shopping, from clothes, sweets, decorations, food, desserts and lots more. Let your children enjoy their time on our fun bouncy castles and get them involved in the activities and face painting whilst you adorn your hands with our specialist henna designs. Stalls open at 4 p.m. and close at 8 p.m. Be sure to join in the Eid al-Adha spirit. Inshallah, we look forward to seeing you all there.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to the Arise to Success show. We have Summra Nasir with us today, who is a qualified nutritionist with a lot of experience in educating the community on living a healthy lifestyle and eating a healthy diet through running her one-to-one consultations, corporate wellness sessions, and conducting 6 weeks health workshop with a number of community groups. Samra primarily works with women from ethnic minority groups, which are Asian, Middle Eastern, and Afro-Caribbean, as she knows that there is a gap in knowledge in this subgroup and a higher prevalence of health issues such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Samra wants to help make a difference to her community and feels that she can relate to this subgroup and wants to empower the women with the right knowledge and tools to better their health, inshallah. Her passion is to help people make a change to their diet and lifestyle long term in order to live a better, healthier life permanently, as her motto is health is wealth. Dear listeners, if you have any questions to ask Samra or any comments, please feel free to send them on 07779 481822. So, Samra, before the break, we were discussing some really interesting things about a healthy diet, how that looks like, the importance of a healthy diet. We also talked a little bit about the difference between the dietitian and nutritionist, which she explained it really lovely there. And just before the break, and I apologize, I had to stop you there because we were going for the break. We're talking about type 1 and type 2 diabetes and the causes of it and so on. So, would you like to continue talking a little bit more about that? And also, I had a question on why is it that quite a few children as well tend to get type 1 diabetes? What is it that goes wrong there that causes the type 1 diabetes in children?
Yeah, so sadly, I mean, it's an unknown factor. I mean, an autoimmune disease is basically when your body attacks itself. So your body sees these cells as foreign objects, just like, cancerous cells, which are cells that are foreign objects and then multiply and multiply. So it's something that you're born with, and it's not that you could have prevented it or you could have done something. It's an autoimmune disease, just like any other, like lupus, thyroid conditions, and diabetes. These are all to do with hormones, right? Because insulin is a hormone, and so is glucagon, which is the opposite hormone to insulin. So basically, insulin's a hormone that's produced in the pancreas that takes the sugar out of the bloodstream. You don't want sugar ever in the bloodstream. If you think that sugar's in the bloodstream, think of your blood as like it should be pure. It should be like water based. If you've got sugar in it, that's what's going to be detrimental to further complications such as retinopathy in your eyes. Sugar can't be in the bloodstream. It's what the energy is. It's an energy producer. So we need to get it out of the blood immediately. Otherwise, it will cause other complications such as heart complications. Type 2 diabetes, as I mentioned, diabetic foot you might have heard of, where it's necrotizing. It dies because sugar's in there in the blood area. So so sadly it's not known exactly, Gehad, why people get it, but it's your body attacking itself. And young children, it's just known that they develop it from a young age. It's called the juvenile diabetes type 1. Some people might get it when they're slightly older because they might not realize they've had it. Maybe a 20-year-old, I've known someone who didn't have it until that point. They might be a bit luckier. It takes a long time to show. But if you don't get it treated, obviously if you're eating and eating and eating, you don't get told that you're full. So we need our brain to be told that I'm full and I have energy. Now I don't need to eat anymore. But that insulin is not doing its job, and ghrelin and leptin, which are your hunger hormones, won't work when insulin and glucagon are not working. So glucagon is basically the opposite. When you're starving or you're really hungry in a sort of a period of fasting or intermittent fasting between breakfast and lunch, when you have no food going in, the glycogen stores are broken down that you've stored via glucagon, which is the other hormone, the counteracting hormone of insulin, and it says, "Hey, release some energy into the blood, into the body. My brain needs fueling, right?" So they work in opposite ways. But so type 1, that's you're born with it. Type 2, as I said, we can prevent it, we can reverse it. It's all about being not aware of what you should be consuming, enjoying food too much to an excess amount of sugar and saturated fats, especially in the Middle Eastern culture and Asian communities. They love their sweets and, it's very rich, their diet, which is lovely, but on occasion, as I said, not all the time.
Yeah.
Excess of that will lead to diabetes, and that's why we're more likely to develop it. But, for example, I'll give you a fact. So, an Asian person who is Asian or Middle Eastern or Afro-Caribbean, they're more likely to get type 2 diabetes from the age of 20 or 20 years old, whereas a Caucasian person or an English person will develop it in their 40s because we're more predisposed. We're naturally, it's just our body cells, it's the fat, the way we as I mentioned earlier, we secure the fat around our abdomen, and it's in Asian and our population, we seem to get that around the abdomen area, and it sits there and it blocks it just sits there as fat, and it blocks the passage of insulin, so that insulin can't get into the cell and it remains in the blood, and that's what causes it's like sugar in the blood is diabetes. So that can make it a bit clearer, the difference between the two as well.
Oh, thank you for that. And that was actually going to be my next question in terms of why is there a gap in this subgroup of Asian, Middle Eastern, and Afro-Caribbean, and why are they higher? They have higher prevalence of health issues such as diabetes and heart disease. And you mentioned already, like, one of the reasons is because they store more fat around the belly area and so on. And my question to that is, why is that? Is it lack of movement? Is it just the way that, our bodies are? And can we do something about it since we have higher prevalence of having these diseases?
Yeah, again, really well put, a good question. So as I've said, the Asian community, the Afro-Caribbean community, and the Middle Eastern, we are naturally more predisposed. It's just a genetic factor. Again, I know it's not the answer people are looking for, but we don't know 100% why this is, but we just know the facts. We know that these subgroups, as you always hear in the news, they're more likely to have vitamin D deficiency as well. Our body doesn't absorb the sun in the same way, although we can handle it better than, for example, Caucasians can burn and go very red, and we don't absorb it in the same way. That's one way. But I think a lot of it is because of a lack of knowledge. Could be one reason why people in this subgroup aren't aware of the health complications and the way that you need to eat to be free of this disease. I think a lot of the Asian community or Middle Eastern see food also as a demonstration of richness, So whenever people come, it's horn plenty, which is lovely, but piling on the food on the plates, and it can be nice, but it's not being kind. You're trying to be kind, but it's going to damage health, because we need to eat a proper portion. So your plate should be a third of all the groups. For example, if you're of a healthy weight, you should have 1/3 of your plate the whole grain portion, whether that's pasta, basmati rice, potatoes. It should be 1/4. The other quarter should be your protein source, which is maybe a fillet of salmon, a fillet of chicken, your stewed pulses and beans. I mean, there's a little bit a law unto itself. You can have as many as you want when it comes to pulses and beans, because they're very good calories. They can be higher calories, but they're not dense calories. We want to move away from calorie counting. It's all about the quality of food. So we're talking about the nutrients and the nutrition that whole foods will give you. So lentils has one of the highest amounts of protein in a non-animal product. So you'll get around 19 to 20 grams of protein in lentils, as opposed to, you get about 24 grams in a fillet of chicken. You'll get that in a steak, a piece of steak, for example. But also there's different qualities of protein and whole protein. So you might have heard people use the terminology whole protein. Whole protein is when you have the 9 amino acids which make up a whole protein. And you get that mainly from, animal products are mainly full of whole protein. So, for example, egg is a whole protein. It has 9 of essential amino acids. Fish will be, chicken will be. But when you're looking at the the non-plant, so the plant-based sources of protein, for example, you might have a few of the proteins, but not all of them. And it's still good. It's protein, so don't think you're not allowed to have it. You just might have to have a lot of different plant-based proteins. I think apart from edamame beans, which are a whole protein, and tofu, these are what a lot of vegetarians live off, that you can get your good source from that, but also lentils. But just mixing and matching, we don't have a problem in this country of getting enough protein in our diet. So we all enjoy protein. It's heart healthy if you're having the right amounts. It's just it's not heart healthy when you're having excess, and all the smoked versions. So salami, sausages, these are ultra processed and they've got additives, they've got pasteurization, coloured emulsifiers. So these ones are a bit more detrimental and these can cause damage. When we talk about ultra processed foods, these are the foods that we're talking about as well, because they damage the lining of your gut, and these are what can lead to bowel cancer long term if you're having excess. So red meat we always get asked as well, how much red meat? I say maybe once a week is enough, because it's much longer for us to digest red meat. It takes about 4 hours to digest that, as opposed to chicken could be 1 to 2 hours. So you get enough of iron from it as well. So yeah, I think it's a lack of knowledge. Coming back to your question, sorry, you can always go off on a tangent when you're talking about nutrition. It's a huge area. But to answer your question, I think this subgroup could be a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding. Trying to, be hospitable could be, when you're being too kind, but it's not being kind in another way. And naturally more genetically predisposed, sadly, we are in that subgroup. And I realised when I did my training that I need to help this community group and this subgroup, because they are the ones suffering more from high cholesterol, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. And I can relate. Although I'm from here, I have that cultural background and I want to help our people.
Inshallah, that's great, mashallah. So there seems to be, you give really good information there, but there seems to be a lack of, research in terms of the causes of why this subgroup is having, or more, having high prevalence of such diseases. Because, as you're saying, I'm just thinking, is it lack of movement? Could it be that? Or it could be various other things. So hopefully there can be a bit more research. Yeah,
of course. It's, to be honest, yeah, it's a mixture of all. There's not one thing. This is what I'm trying to say. So definitely in this subgroup, yes, there is a lack of movement, and maybe they're more there. Sedentary lifestyles can become hard when you're at work for so many hours. People work longer hours. They're working from home, for example. The whole pandemic, this is where we had to say, get outside, go for a walk, get into nature for that mental health as well as mindfulness. So it's a whole array of things. So lack of movement, lack of eating the right foods. Ultra processed foods are cheaper. Maybe people think they're more economically viable, so they'll go for that. But there are a lot of other ways of having healthy options which are cheap. Frozen vegetables, frozen fruits, getting tin versions, of sardines and mackerel and salmon. They're just as good. They're much cheaper. They're more affordable. Tin chickpeas, things like that. There are ways around it, and you can have a very cheap, healthy meal. So I know people say it's too expensive to eat healthily, but that's not the case. Might be a lack of understanding on how to make it, better.
So that knowledge and raising that knowledge is actually very important. If that's what is lacking in this subgroup or this specific group, because that knowledge is what helps us to understand what's going on and helps us to make a difference, inshallah, and make changes in our lifestyles to make it better, inshallah. I was wondering about stress. What's the role of stress when it comes to illnesses?
Oh God, that stress is one of the biggest health complications. It's one of the main subsets of causing ill health. It all starts from stress, isn't it? So when we're stressed, we may be more fatigued, we may be in a foul mood, we may not be sleeping well. And what's causing the stress? We need to know what is the cause of that stress and what is the coping mechanism. And it's easily said than done. I mean, we all go through stress. We all go through a form of mental health in our lives. We might, when you're losing loved ones, when you're stressed out because of work pressures, your horrible manager shouting at you, everything, lifestyle, looking after someone in your family. So we are all exposed to everyday stresses. And what we need to do is try and make the best of this situation through coping mechanisms. So as I mentioned, the gut-brain axis a moment ago, it's all about that. So if we are stressed and we are anxious and we are tired, the cortisol levels are raised, and that's the hormone that's pumping out that adrenaline and cortisol. And so you're like in the fight or flight system. This is where you're fighting or running away, and usually we fight when we're in the stressed out anxiety mode. So that's the the sympathetic nervous system at play. So we need to find a way through meditation, which I think's been helping me get through a hard time for sure. Just taking some time out to mentally be here in the now and present and just focus on the present. We all focus a lot about the future, about the past, and we don't live in the here and now. I mean, who knows what if tomorrow's your last day, right? This is what I say to people. Live your life like it's your last day on earth. And you need to really honor your bodies, take in be happy with exercising daily 20 to 30 minutes a day, getting out into nature, even walking. You don't have to do strenuous exercise if you can't. Moderate moderate exercise is very important as well. So walking, dancing, going up and down staircases, getting off a stop before your workplace so you can walk from there a little bit longer, doing things where you're socializing, enjoying people's friends make you happy, and being amongst people that make you happy, going out, wining and dining, traveling. So I think we have to find a way of dealing with it. And it's sometimes you can get to a point where you're overwhelmed and you can get too far to that depression point where you will need support from a therapist, and that this won't work because you've got to that burnout point. And we don't want us to get to that. So what we all need to do is focus, have some me time, have a massage, on a weekend. Make sure you go and do something just for you, whether it's a 10-minute thing, like you just think about yourself. Do it. We need to focus on ourselves because stress leads to gut health complications. Stress and your gut are talking all the time. When we're stressed, we feel it here. Immediately we go, oh my God, I've got constipation, or I need to run to the bathroom because you're stressed. I mean, we all get anxious and we've got an interview, haven't we? It's natural. But there's good stress and there's bad stress. So the bad stress is where we need to try and find a way of coping. And there's so many different ways, manifestation, good manifesting, writing out, your feelings, your thoughts onto paper, get it out of your mind before you go to bed. Good sleep routines, very vital as well. If you're on your phone, we all live in a technology world, we're on our phone 24/7, it's so bad. But at least 2 hours before bedtime, train yourself not to touch it and make sure you don't go near your phone, because also the light on that phone will keep you stimulated. So we need to wind down. You need to tell your body it's time to relax. I need to enter the rest and digest mode, parasympathetic nervous system, where I'm relaxing. When you're breathing, Gehad, if you breathe 4 times when you're breathing in, 4 times, and then out 4 times, you're telling your brain it's time to sleep. You're teaching it, you're training it. So stress is a big killer. It's the main cause of a lot of health complications, and we need to try our best to talk about it as well.
Absolutely. And when you said about the breathing in 4 seconds, I was doing as you were saying, it's like that feels so relaxing, and it's just so important to take your time to breathe. And subhanAllah, I've heard that breathing the right way helps to prevent a lot of diseases and illnesses, but we forget to do that, right?
Yeah. We do. We take it for granted because we just think every day we're breathing in, breathing out. But when you're actually training yourself, Gehad, it means you're telling your parasympathetic nervous system, I'm now relaxing. And that's where you can digest properly. When you're stressed, that's when you get, IBS symptoms, and you get a lot of feelings, and you feel that's because you're stressed out. You need to lower the energy by the time you go to bed.
Yeah, it's interesting when you said IBS, because I was going to actually ask about IBS, because I've heard that with IBS, a lot of us have that. I have that myself. And I've noticed that at times when, my diet isn't great, and when there is stress, it really triggers the IBS. And it's kind of a good reminder as well for us to kind of, although that IBS can be quite painful, but it's kind of a good reminder to make sure that we have the right diet and to try to not stress as much as possible, right? It can be hard, of course, we all stress. But as you said, there is good and bad stress.
Exactly. And like you said there in regards to IBS, so when you are stressed, we all get IBS, and I do get it on occasion also. And what you need to do as well, probiotics, I wanted to mention for gut health. So as we know, 70% of your immune system is in your gut, and that's where we have all the minerals and nutrients coming out into the bloodstream, being sent out to the right places. And so your gut microbiome, the habitat that your gut is in, needs to be healthy. And the reason we talk about fiber is because fiber is what feeds those gut microbes. It's what nourishes your gut with the right good bacteria. If you're not having any plant-based foods, a lot of people just avoid vegetables and fruits. How are you getting the nourishment for your gut? That's when your gut starts to suffer. You're going to have constipation, because fiber helps gut motility. It's soluble fiber, insoluble fiber. Probiotics are, now you hear a lot about it, so fermented foods such as kimchi, kefir, yogurt drinks, kombucha. There's so much about that. And many years ago, you wouldn't hear about all of this stuff, but it's so readily available for you to just get one of these drinks. Yogurt, for example, natural Greek yogurt, packed full of, bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, and these are the live bacteria that you're putting into your body, goes straight to the gut to feed your other gut microbes. It keeps it healthy. And if we don't, and we're just feeding it with all the bad, like not bad, but too much sugar, too much saturated fat, which will block the arteries, you're getting no nutrients. So your bacteria is going, hey, I'm starving. You need to feed me with something that I can thrive off. So just making sure you get some of that into your diet can help as well with the alleviate IBS.
No, that's great. Jazakallah khair for that. I'm just going to quickly remind our dear listeners that we have Summra Nasir with us on the show today, who is a qualified nutritionist who works primarily with women from ethnic minority groups, Asians, Middle Eastern, and Afro-Caribbean, as she knows that there is a gap in knowledge in this subgroup and a higher prevalence of health issues such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Summer wants to help make a difference to her community and feels that she can relate to this subgroup and wants to empower the women with the right knowledge and tools to better their health. And if you, dear listeners, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them or comments to send them at 07779481822. Some mashallah, great stuff that you've shared. I'm aware of the time. We've only got a few minutes left before the end of the show. Just wanted to end in 2 minutes, inshallah. How can we, to make it more practical, how do we make a better change to our diet and lifestyle long term in order to live better and healthier lifestyle? And, to make it even more practical, what can we do from today to act on this?
So just basically making a little change goes a long way. So small changes, start off small and then work your way up. Say you change one thing in your diet, introduce new colours to your diet. We could talk so much, we don't have much time, but in terms of colours, you need so many colours, an array of colours. Eat the rainbow, you must have heard of this. Try and introduce and try a new vegetable each week, a new fruit each week, or each day even. That way you're going to incorporate and introduce something new into your life and your diet, making a new decision on a new activity and exercise regime, a new thing, a new sport you want to try out. Little changes will make the world a difference, and just trying to be more mindful of what you're putting into your body to live a happy, healthier lifestyle, and base it on plant-based diet. So it doesn't mean you're not allowed anything in regards to chicken and meat and all of these things. It's having a balance. It's boring to hear, but it is true. We're all unique. The way we all process things is different. So we have to listen to our body, be in tune with our body to understand what it needs, but also hydration is also key as well. So make a few changes, make for yourself, and you'll see how good you'll feel.
Inshallah. And we still have about a minute left, so I'm just going to quickly wrap up in terms of what you've mentioned throughout the show today,
Sure.
In terms of what contributes to healthy diet and healthy life as well, and the changes you mentioned about sleep. Sleep is very important. At the moment, I'm guilty of that,
Yes.
where I'm really feeling it when I'm not sleeping well. So it makes a huge
Mhm.
difference, and it contributes as well to the stress level and so on. Having a
And your
balance.
cravings. Yeah, sorry, just on that. And your cravings. When you don't sleep, you start craving more bad foods because you're exhausted and you want these. So you want to pick me up. So it's so important to sleep well.
Oh, interesting. So it
Sorry,
feels
go ahead.
like, yeah, no, that's actually a really good point, because it seems like when you
Yeah.
deprive something, you try to compromise with something else.
Yeah. to feel good or have more coffee or something. Coffee is fine, by the way. It's just making sure you have it before 1 p.m. It's full of goodness, but not 10 cups, maybe 2 to 3 max. So
Yeah.
again, moderation.
Absolutely,
Go ahead,
absolutely.
sorry.
No, that's a really good contribution there. So yes, moderation, everything, balance in terms when it comes to food, making sure to have enough sleep, exercise that you've mentioned as well, which is really important when it comes to having a healthy diet. So starting small, and you mentioned there's one area that you mentioned which I thought was quite important in terms of the phone, trying to keep the phone away from you 2 hours before you go to sleep. That can be very hard.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend here is that those who can make the quick change straight away, great. Those who cannot, maybe gradually, so reducing gradually. So for example, trying 10 minutes before you go to sleep and then 15 minutes and so on and so on, and adding
Exactly. Slow and steady wins the race. Exactly what you said there. Good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's no quick
Jazakallah.
fix to health. Jazakallah. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. You shared some really, really great stuff. So Jazakallah khair for accepting my invite to be here today and for all that you've shared. And thank you, dear listeners. And I hope, inshallah, that you have found this beneficial. And if you want to learn more, inshallah, you can reach Summra on her in Instagram, which is sumi.nutrition, right?
Yeah, sumi.nutrition. That's right. SUMMY.
Brilliant. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, dear listeners. Please stay tuned to future sessions with future episodes, which take place on Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. Next week's guest is Alia Umrayan, who's the founder of Solace and the author of the 2 books, Ramadan Reflections and The Power of Dua. A lot of you know Alia Umrayan, so please stay tuned and join us next week. Jazakallah khair, everybody, for joining us today. Inshallah, see you next week. And Jazakallah khair, Summra, again. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu